Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I'm your host, Nathan Ragland, and today we have quite the groovy conversation. Today we have Dave Capdevielle, a horror genre-loving, all-around talented individual who co-wrote the Hazbin Hotel pilot and is currently the co-creator of the upcoming Far-Fetched. Dave was just a treat to have on. This became less of a podcast and more of just a regular conversation. And it's one I truly loved, and I hope you all enjoy it as much, if not more, than I did. Go support him in all the links below. If you enjoyed the podcast, consider subscribing or following on your favorite streaming platform. Follow on Twitter and Instagram at Postmodern Art Pod for future updates and guest announcements. And join the Apocalypse Podcast Network Discord in the description below to join a community that loves this podcast and others. In fact, let's hear a word from another amazing podcast in the Apocalypse Podcast Network.
Because this virus attacks the lungs,
it's never more infuriating when you realize that your life has a price tag on it.
The truth of the matter is we are in the middle of an apocalypse.
There's no leadership.
I went from being an ER nurse to you're a healthcare hero. I feel like a sham.
Apocalypse Now is a podcast that asks if we are living at the beginning of the end. I'm Joanna Van Fine. Join me every week as I talk with interesting people and decide if we're all doomed. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast.
What's going on, dude?
It's going wonderful now. I'm finally getting a chance to sit down and chat with you, man. How's it going?
I'm all right.
That's good to hear.
Just another Saturday.
Yeah. I'll say for me, it's my day off, so yeah, that's I can agree with that on that one.
I started the day by packing up 100 plus mailers of pins for people who ordered from Ashley's shop.
Right, yeah, because that thing went insane the instant you guys dropped it.
Yeah, I mean, people, they really like that. They really like that funny cast. You know,
Yeah.
They really like that. But it's all good. You know, like it's part of like, you know, but part of my job, you know, like doing the co-creation stuff, but also like Ashley being my boss, is that I'll just do a lot of like extra tasks like that. So
there you go. Speaking of co-creator stuff, I don't know if you noticed in the background, but yeah, I just decided to help out what little bit I can.
Oh, I appreciate that. Dude, it's a rad poster that Cross designed.
It really is. It really is.
I also appreciate the Tyler, the Creator poster, but that's my favorite album of his. So.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, for me, it's a competition between that one and Igor. Not that there's a bad album he's had, because I've listened to all of his stuff, but like,
yeah,
at least when it comes to cover art, I had to get that one. As a matter of fact, so oddly enough, today's my birthday. I went to Walmart.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you. I was gonna say, I went to Walmart today to pick up my usual stuff to prepare for the week and such. And while I was in the store, I noticed the Igor vinyl was just in Walmart for just randomly. And I decided,
nice.
I decided to get it, but I don't have a vinyl player.
Well, didn't he also like purposely in the mixing like try to make it so that it would be best heard on like vinyl or cassette?
I would not be surprised if that's the case. I do know that what was it? There's actually, if you listen to the CD or the vinyl, there's actually technically an additional song on there. He did release it on YouTube like a year later. But
yeah.
What was it, Boyfriend or whatnot? Like that song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That, like, if you got the record or got the CD, it was on there first. So a lot of people had that like year in advance heads up. So.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler's always, you know, ever since the beginning too, been kind of like you know, the way, because he very Adult Swim minded kind of in the way he does his like production and music video stuff, like. Because they're always like half cut short, mixing into other songs, which is fun. I don't know. I've been a fan of him for a long time.
Oh no, absolutely. I was gonna say, it's funny. What was it? I don't know if you've noticed this, but like that half cut mixing into another song. Every single album he's done, the 10th track is always a double song. I don't know if you've noticed that or not.
No, you know what? I hadn't noticed it, but now that you pointed it out, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah. So. That wouldn't surprise. I love little Easter eggs like that. I love doing that stuff. Like even like I'm a big I'm a big Neil Cicerega fan.
Oh yes,
you know who that is.
Oh, absolutely.
On his second mashup album, Mouth Silence, he does the whole joke is that it's the one mashup album that he's without any Smash Mouth on it, right? But if you speed up the entire album by like 1,600% or something, the whole time there's this like ambiotic like whistling noise that you think is maybe just like some kind of it's just like some kind of atmosphere adding to it. No, it's Smash Mouth just slowed down across the length of the entire album as a backing track.
That is brilliant. I have never heard that one before. That is brilliant right there.
Yeah. I love when people go way too far for shit posts. That's my favorite thing.
No, absolutely. Like, when people taking the time and effort just to put that little extra, like, almost like the extra wink, nod, shove, toss into a river so you can get the joke.
Yep. That's the best.
That is absolutely the best. Do you mind if I include this a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I know I've said so many damning things during this 10-minute period.
You know what? What was it? I actually only started doing this whenever I had Silvahound on the podcast, because I had him like one of the first guests of the new year and such. And like we were just talking like about all these random stuff. He's like, this is stuff we should include in the podcast. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start including this intro because it's a nice like instant segue for the audience to be like, okay, they're in for a nice, calm, cool, casual conversation, which is the vibe I try to go for with this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I recommend too is that like because my background's in like radio stuff, when I do like a lot of podcasting stuff, is keep everything you can and then toss what's not really like vibing right or necessary, and then just kind of mix it all in, and then you'll get a nice kind of casual conversation by the end of it. So,
you know what? Duly noted. That is actually very much noted, because this podcast is still very, very young. It only started September this past year. So any chance I can do to improve it, I will definitely take notes and all that stuff. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, man. I've been doing podcasts and radio stuff for a long time. So I'm 27, but I'm like 45 in internet years. So.
Yeah, the internet can really catch up to you when it comes to age and all that stuff.
Oh god, every time I log into Twitter, I like lose a brain cell. It's ridiculous. Like, also, I don't know what your policy is on cursing on this show. But
I don't give a fuck. Go for it.
Okay. It'll be an excuse to shape up my potty mouth anyway. So.
I was gonna say, I mean, like I said, calm, cool, casual conversation. If a fucker or shit slips out here and there, I don't care. Go for it.
Yeah.
Anyways, but if you're ready on your end, I could just I'll do a clap, 3, 2, 1, and we'll jump right in with the icebreaker question. Does that sound good?
Do you want me to record my audio, or do you?
I think it sounds good on my end because I'm using Streamlabs to record this, so it records both of our audios, and the audio on your end sounds absolutely lovely. So.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
I do appreciate the thought, though.
Yeah, no, of course. I know how annoying it is when you like go to edit something and the audio isn't split, and then you're like, "Well, crap."
Yeah,
rude. So yeah.
What was it So one of the podcasts I did was with a guy by the name of Joe Horn. Does that name ring a bell to you?
I've heard the name. I can't put the face to it, but I've heard the name before.
Okay, the biggest thing, at least for me, was that he directed the entirety of Class of 3000, if you remember that show.
Oh, yes, I do remember that.
He directed that. He directed episodes of the Boondocks. He was a storyboard artist for the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the original Sonic the Hedgehog series. So this guy has years of experience.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, I was so lucky to have him on the podcast. But the audio issues, they mounted.
Dude. Okay, no, I'm glad you actually brought this up. So it's like, this is I thought I was alone in this. It's so weird how whenever you get like bigger people, they never know how like recording or Discord or Skype works, like ever. Like it's always like garbage. And like I had like my favorite musician in the world, Devin Townsend, I was blessed to have on my podcast. It's like a dream come true for me.
Right. I saw that one. I have yet to listen to. I listened to the other 2 episodes, but I need to sit down and listen to that one.
Yeah, and the thing was though is that like he's super cool. It was like a dream come true for me to interview him. but my God, his audio fucking sucked. And I'm like, dude, you're like my biggest inspiration for a musician, and your audio sounds like garbage. Like, how look at that catch-22. So, but of course, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, you make it work. But like, it's just funny to me. It's like, you'd think like these people, they would know they do enough interviews to know, like, maybe I should get something besides the blue Yeti I found behind my house in the dumpster. Like,
dude, you don't know how badly I'm relating to you on this thing. I will say, when it came to the Joe Horn interview, that was actually audio on both ends. That was both mine and his as well. But for his, It was his because, like, this was the first time he'd ever downloaded Discord, and he recorded it on his phone. And you know just how beautifully the phone microphones can be. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Oh God.
So that was already bad on its own. Plus, there are times to where, like, my mic would get feedback, and I would hear myself twice. So that was annoying as it was. But on top of that, so for that episode, I decided to get a couple of my friends on as well, and we like ran out of space. We were gonna go in, we were gonna record. My dumbass did not think, you know, we should only have one microphone to record the entire thing. Now my dumbass thought, okay, we're in this recording space, just to be safe, let's all bring our microphones. And so it's like, so it's like there's at one point there was like 3 different ones, and then we decided, you know, okay, I'll tell you what, friend Alex, your microphone is probably the best one out of the 3 of us. We're gonna use yours. So you know, he sets this up and we start using that one. But then like halfway through the interview, I think, you know what? I'm also recording Audacity on my end, so I can at least record my microphone. I also forgot that Streamlabs also recorded my microphone on top of his microphone. So there was that instant disconnect and like, you know, overlapping, and it was a nightmare. The editing for that one was so bad because I didn't have any like good editing software. I had Movavi at the time, which if you've ever heard of it, if you haven't heard of it, don't use it.
Obviously, I've never even heard of that.
It's one of those, like, if you're starting out bare bones and you have a little money to spare, sure, but don't stick with it.
Right.
But for me, I had to edit so much of the audio and so much crap that by the time I got done, I exported it. I was able to get the audio version, but it would crash every single time I had to do the video version of it. So I didn't have a video version to put up.
Oh, God.
What I did instead was, luckily, like I said before, I exported the audio version. I've layered that down. I took the thumbnail that I had Magpie do for the episode, and I put that just over the entire track, so it's just that visual the entire time with like one little part to where I put a celebrity's face, or which is a whole separate story. But yeah, that's how the video version had to be.
That's rough, man.
It is, but
I know. You know, I'm empathetic because I've been there and I get it. But as you do this more and more, things will be more comfortable, and you'll find new things to make it for you. So
absolutely. Plus, I will say one of the things, like, you know, getting more experience, getting better equipment, hopefully, like, you know, to help with more group recording. If I was to do another group podcast that isn't straight up on Discord again, yeah, that was. But at the end of the day, I will say, I got the chance to sit down and talk to the person that basically helped shape my childhood, because I was a huge fan of Class of 3000. Like, that's the thing that can never be taken away from me. That's like you with Devin and with Maxwell, like, just interviewing them. I can only imagine like how much it like blew your mind just to even talk to them.
Oh yeah, man, that's the coolest part, is that, like, and there's also an element of it too that's kind of humbling when you realize, you know, kind of these people are just human as well, and then you're like, well, okay, like I you know, these people that you look up to so much, you kind of bring them back down to your level a little bit, and it really kind of inspires you in a way. So I'm sure that's what it was like for you. Oh yeah, absolutely. I do want to say though, real quickly, when it comes to Maxwell, dude, I listened to the terrible title talks. Is that it's supposed to be like a alliteration, tongue twister in a way, of alliteration. Yeah, I just like to fuck with people. So
you do a great job at that. But I was gonna say, still having him on that podcast and just like hearing like the stuff with Cartoon Network and Behind Dead Meat and stuff like that, dude, that's the podcast I dreamed to have with people like you. That was great.
I was very, very blessed to because he's such a nice guy, and we've become, you know, friends and stuff. But that's like, good. Yeah, that just the opportunity that, like, the way I got to meet him was being like, you know, like, hey, you do practical effects stuff. Do you want to come work for my thing? And I was like, you made my favorite cartoon as a kid, and now you're asking me to throw fake blood around your house? Yes, please. Like, I that weekend I was a kid in a candy store. So
I can only imagine. That'd be like if I was in LA at the right time and Tyler's like, "Hey, I need you to throw paint in the streets. You want to help out?" I'm like, "Fuck it, let's do it."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, no, that's like still like I can only imagine like with that and just like everything online. I can only imagine how blown back and how surreal it must be for you at times just seeing all this stuff.
Yeah, it's very weird, and I think if it wasn't weird, then that'd be a problem, you know?
No, absolutely.
Like, no, it's all still very like, I mean, I'm very, very lucky to, be involved in and kind of the position I'm in at this point, but like, it's still kind of new to me, even though I've been doing this stuff for a long time. The whole kind of like, I don't know, I guess the back end of it is very kind of new to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I'm used to just kind of doing my own thing and like just skating by.
Right.
But like, I don't know, it's been very wonderful, but like I said, also like very lucky that I've been able to, currently have this actually be my job, which was like always my dream. Like, I know this probably sounds like so pathetic in a way, but like because most people are like, like I want to like, be a movie star, or I want to like, I don't know, climb Mount Everest. So I'm like, I just want to not work in a meat market anymore.
Yeah.
like that's all I want. I want to just like if I can just pay my bills, the bare minimum, doing something creative, I'll be happy. And like, so I find in that way, that kind of helps with the whole thing, because like when that like that kind of like sort of, I guess in a way like humble mentality, it makes you kind of like, appreciate everything you get in a way. Because like I'll still like, it's so weird to me, man, because like I've been, like I said, meeting such like other cool creators and getting to work with them and talk to them. Oh, it's very weird because I've become less and less starstruck over time.
Right.
But it's still, every once in a while, it still gets me that I'm like, it's that kind of thing where it's like you don't realize it until like way after the fact. Mm-hmm. Where like I'll work on something with somebody and then I'm like, wait, holy shit, that was that person. That's cool. Like, but it'll be like after the fact, and I think that's just because I'm a very like work-minded person.
That's a good mentality to have.
Yeah, like I said, it's just from working labor jobs for 8 years, and then that's what I'll say. Like this is completely. I'm going to turn into old man yells at cloud for a second here, but like to everybody listening, whether you want to go be whatever you want to be, if I was the president, right?
Okay.
I would say between high school and college, whether you decide to go to college or not, based on what you want to do, everybody should be required to work 6 months of retail or labor in between high school and college so that you get that experience and you decide what you want to do. Because that shit humbles you like nothing else. So, and like I said, this is, waving cane at cars running by, but like, yeah, that didn't answer your question at all. But
well, there wasn't really a question in the first place. It was just more or less us chit-chatting, so it works perfectly. I do want to say I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm currently working a warehouse job, so I'm like, doing that kind of stuff. I started off where I was, I work at a place that sells like tractors, excavators, skid steers, like, construction equipment and such. My first job there was whenever we load them up on the semi trucks, I would get in there and like nail blocks of wood to the ground to make sure that the stuff doesn't go rolling around and causing thousands of dollars worth of damage. I was doing that. Before that, I was at a cold storage facility stacking 40-pound boxes of chicken all night long. Like
oh, jeez.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean with that kind of the labor and the workplace mentality, and also with what you said beforehand with, just wanting to not do that for the rest of your life and such.
And that's not to say, like, if people who do that for their whole life, there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, if you love doing it, that's awesome.
Right.
It's just that, sometimes it's just not what you want to do. So
Right. And I mean, if nothing else, this podcast, one thing I try to encourage is go with what you love. Like, you know, it's worth taking that risk if you know you can, if you're passionate enough about that you want to go for it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's the hardest thing though, is that like you know, having something you love that you want to do, because there's the absolute truth of these things that I've learned, at least, and this could be different for everybody, but is that, you know, it takes a lot of hard work, but it also takes a lot of luck.
Yeah.
And that's
no
the truth.
joke.
I've publicly gone on record and say that do not take advice from people who don't chalk up luck as part of their success. And I stand by that, because the absolute, and it's sad because like I do believe that working your ass off, of course, will get you places. I do absolutely believe that, but I also believe, unfortunately, there has to be some kind of, you know, not otherworldly, but like outside factor to kind of, you know, help you along that path too. Whether it's knowing the right people or being in the right place at the right time, or, you know, like punching a genie in the face. I don't know, one of them, but like. I just think that's important to, you know, recognize when you talk about your experiences.
Oh yeah, no, trust me. With just about every single guest I've had on this podcast, I chalk luck up as like the number one big thing more than anything else. Like just having you on the podcast, man. Like this is already surreal to me. Like I never thought I would like. I guess for you, I don't know how your mindset is with this kind of stuff, but to me, like you're like one of the funniest people, and you're one of the most innovative people that I've actually gotten the chance to sit down and talk with. Now I talk to a lot of people that, you know, I just appreciate what they do, and I appreciate what you've been doing, man. Seriously, with like, you know, everything from just, you know, the stuff that you help write, the stuff that you help promote, and just the humor that you have. Like you are truly someone I admire, and I was lucky to have you on this podcast.
Well, it's very, very kind of you. I really appreciate that. I don't know. It kind of goes back to your earlier thing where it's like, I really appreciate people like supporting what I do, but it's also kind of like, I don't know. I'm very weird with compliments and stuff, because it's just like, I don't know. It goes back to that whole like, don't get a big head mentality. You know,
right. That's
one of my biggest anxieties. Is just the fear of like one day just being like, oh, I'm hot shit, let's roll with it. Like, because that's the people I hate anyway. Yeah. So I'm just like, nope. Just gonna be like, yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Like, just so, but no, that honestly, that's very, very kind of you.
I was gonna say that mentality. That's something that my dad has kind of instilled in me. Because so before I started this podcast, I was going to school. I still have like a semester left, and I need to get down to it at some point. But I was gonna be a filmmaker. Like I've made short films and such, and like even then, like my dad is always like, you know, it'd be great if you get those like big goals and stuff like that, but always remember where you came from. And I think for you, like especially with the hard labor and stuff that you've been to before, like you know what it's like to not have. So I feel like at least with you, like now that you're starting to have and once you have more to have, I feel like you would still like in the back of your mind just be like, remember what it was before. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm glad you can relate in that way, because I think it boils down to just appreciating what you have.
There you go.
That's kind of what it boils down to. Because I was very much the same way, kind of like what your dad was with my parents, where my parents were very much kind of like, for a long time, like, you know, like you like we're happy you like do like this, you know, all this like creative stuff, but like you need to get a real job, you know, as you know, just how parents are. And so I think part of that mentality kind of is still there, where it still is kind of even though this is my job now, it still doesn't feel like it.
Right.
And I'm hoping that doesn't mean like I'm gonna have like, you know, a brain aneurysm, but like I'm thinking it's just me not fully adapting yet to kind of because if you do something for so long, right, it takes a while to break a habit.
Oh yeah.
Like I was in the same boat, like, because you were stacking like cold chicken items. That's what we would do. Like at my meat market job I worked at for 5 years, which I, you know, loved the people I worked with. That's why I liked my job.
Right.
And like the one thing I can say is that like even though the stuff I do now is what I want to do for my career, if the bombs fall and the apocalypse starts, I won't be eaten because I can cut up meat now. So it's like having that butcher skill set. It's like, okay, it's cool to have, you know, but it's not what I wanted to do. But I relate to you because 3 times a week we had to stack, you know, multiple pallets of just big boxes of meat, everything from chicken to sausage to ground beef, and put them in the freezers. So I get it. Yeah, it. So anytime I like see like, and I think about like, you know, like, oh God, how hard is my life? Then I think about picking up one of those 80-pound boxes of meat and I just shut my mouth, like.
Oh my God, dude! Like I know, again, I know exactly what you're talking about. Because so most of the product we would get in is like Chick-fil-A stuff. Like they would be our main like storage places or whatnot. And like they're checking this package up right because, you know, hey, this goes out to thousands of stores throughout the nation and stuff. They want to make sure theirs is right. The worst we would ever have is when we would get chicken that was meant to be distributed to prisons and such. And let me put it like this: they do not care about the people in prisons. So it's one of those, we would get these like cheap we'd get these like cheap boxes and these like thin bags that you would normally store like vegetables in. All right, so it's not really holding back anything, and these things like easily crumbled up or whatnot. And they would be stacked almost as tall as me, and I'm a tall guy. I'm like 6'1", 6'2". All right, so having to reach up and then try to bring it down so I can bring it down to my level and such, I was just gooped in chicken blood and guts and stuff.
I was gonna say, because it sounds like they would rip fairly easily.
The boxes didn't rip, but like it didn't contain shit. All right, like it contained the chicken, and that was about it. So like, yeah, that was a nightmare. On top of that, I'm pretty sure like the first shipment, I was there for when we got the first shipment of it ever. I'm pretty sure we had the toughest time ever getting rid of the shit because it got freezer burned after a while.
Oh God, yeah. That's like when multiple times we would have companies drop off meat product, and they would do it in the middle of the pouring rain, and they just wouldn't care. So they let like whole pallets of boxes just get soaked. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? If I touch it, it dissolves. Like there's no sense in me trying to stack this.
Well, this is why you have to get your personalized golden-plated freaking forklift from the back of your garage or whatnot and bring it over.
Damn right. Your giant claw machine. Yeah.
I wouldn't trust the claw machines because I see how they are at the arcades, and I don't trust those things to save my life.
Dude, I swear to God, I've only won one of those things one time in my life, and the only reason I remember it is because it was the freaking zebra from Madagascar stuffed toy that I got at like some like Miami Beach boardwalk like arcade when my family was there, like when I was like in 8th grade or something. And I remember thinking I was like on top of the world. Like I could have fought God and given him a black eye at that point, because I was just like I was so filled with youthful energy. And now I look at one of those things, I'm like, I'm not wasting my money on that garbage.
I usually don't, but like, you know, the weird little like key ones or whatnot, I always get suckered into those. Like I try not to because I know they're a giant scam, but I get suckered into those every single time.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about just those places in general, is that they really find a way to get you from all the colors, the lights, the ambiance. So
the appealing prizes that you could potentially get, like a full-on Xbox or a PlayStation.
It's so sad because it's like, when you really think about, and I don't mean to get existential on this podcast about, you know, creativity, but like, God, if you really think about it, humans are like, oh, we're just drawn to pretty lights. We're such basic creatures, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's what we are, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair, this is an art podcast where I bring on a lot of people that bring on pretty colors and such. So yeah.
I don't know. I think that just happens way too often with me, where every once in a while I'll like look at everything I'm doing, and I'm just like, I'm just a skeleton wrapped in meat. What am I doing? like where I'm just like, like it just hits me hard, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, but you know what? It's these things that we make that keep us going. It's that art that basically is designed in a way to distract us from those harsh truths.
There you go. I cannot think of
Yeah.
a better way to word it myself. I love how we have this whole entire conversation and the podcast technically hasn't even really started.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I tend to just rant.
No, this is absolutely perfect. This is the kind of vibe I like for a podcast, so I'm definitely leaving all of this in.
Okay. Yeah, by all means. I thought we were going, so that's perfect.
I mean, technically we were, but technically we weren't. Because like I said, I like to include this little prequel section into it, but still.
Yeah.
I've said this before. I have my little roadmap of questions and such, but dude, if we go off on some random tangent on how, Alf should be our next president in 2024, I am perfectly fine going down that path, okay?
Yeah, you know what though, this tendally, and this is one of my issues, that I whenever I go on podcasts, I usually just kind of like, you know what's on my mind? Let's talk about that. Instead of like, oh wait, no, I gotta answer what they want to talk about. So I apologize.
Oh no! Again, do not apologize. I'm a person to where whenever someone wants to listen to this podcast, just calm, cool, casual conversation at the end of the day, because that's the kind of stuff I love. So again, if we go off on some random 20 tangents throughout the entire thing, and I have a 3-hour podcast, fuck it, I am perfectly fine with that. I can split that thing into 2 parts and release the same day. I am down for that.
There you go. There's always a solution.
There you go. All right, Dave, before we get started, well, further than we've already have, I must ask the icebreaker question to ask for every single podcast. What is your most unpopular art opinion?
Oh God. Oh, okay. You know what? I would say probably.
Okay.
There is, even though technically they teach you that anything can be art, I think there's a line, and I learned that in college whenever my art professor tried to teach me that 2 basketballs floating in a fish tank was an art piece, and I think there's a limit of being able to come up with some phony baloney. Oh, but you don't get it. I think there's a certain limit to where it's like, no, buddy, I don't think you get it.
No, I know exactly what kind of art you're talking about. With that in mind, I'm guessing you're not a huge fan of Marcel Duchamp. I don't know if you've heard of him or not.
I have not. Is it like...
Dude, okay, basically his stuff is just like, it's basically anti-establishment or whatnot, but still like some of the most random stuff out there that you would probably look at and be like, what the fuck?
But here's the thing though, it's like I'm actually very, very open to a lot of experimental stuff, because like I said, I'm a huge David Lynch fan.
Oh yeah.
I'm huge into very experimental stuff. It's just that I think I could very easily tell when there's meaning behind it and when there's just no, this is just complete bullshit. I think that's what it is.
Okay, so let me tell you about one of the most prominent pieces of Marcel Duchamp, and I want to see what you think, whether it's actual art or bullshit. Basically, when he first moved to whenever he first moved to New York, he went to a random hardware store. He grabbed the shovel, bought it, wrote his name on it, put it on a string, called it art.
Put it on a string and called it art.
Yeah, he hung it up from the ceiling to where it's just a shovel just hanging from a string with his name on it.
Okay, that's on that weird line where it's like, is it literally just flaunting because it's his name? You know what I mean?
Right. Now, I think, for me, from what I can sort of interpret from it, it's just kind of how society sort of praises material objects or something like that, how much we desire material objects, the fact that we would go out and pay for stuff that should be more or less essential. That's how I interpret it, but that's so
he's putting it on a pedestal by suspending it.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, all right, I suppose yes, that is a way to look at it, but at the same time, there's a million other ways you could have put that sort of point across.
All right, yeah.
I don't know. Part because there's a large part of me that's levity minded, so I look at a lot of these things and I wonder if a lot of these are kind of parodies of kind of art, where it's at what point is it is it like the joke is you're kind of making fun of that, like
right.
sort of lack of nothing, or are you actually trying to make a statement? I suppose.
It's very hard to kind of determine it at times when it comes to some artists. I feel like if you took a chance to actually like dive into Marcel Duchamp's stuff, like you have like several questions to where at one point you'll just be like, okay, you're just a pretentious asshole. Come on, man.
I like to be like that because I don't like to, like insult people like that. But like, there are just sometimes where I will just see, like I said, like I didn't look up who it was, but like it just stuck with me. Just this image in a textbook, which was just a fish tank with just 2 basketballs floating on the top, and my art teacher was like, "This here, much like the comparisons to these paintings of the great Renaissance artists, is art." And I'm like, dude, you're really like stretching here.
Yeah. I'm gonna say on both sides of the coin on this one, like art can be interpreted many different ways, and for some people, like it's a statement of like the time period. So whatever the guy was trying to say with the basketballs and the fish tank about that time period, okay, he's free to express that. At the same time, like comparing that to a Renaissance painting, that's hard to really make the judgment for. That's really hard to make a defense for. So.
Mm-hmm. I also have to say that this art professor I had, he was also like this kind of weirdly obsessive Andy Warhol fanboy.
Okay.
So like literally a third of the semester, like was just him talking about like how genius Andy Warhol was, and I'm like, and I fall into the camp where, while I respect Andy Warhol, he was way more of a celebrity than an artist.
You know what? Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
I mean, the dude painted Campbell's soup cans. Let's be real. Like, and now, I don't want to sound like this is great. First thing on the podcast, I sound like some like anti, like I don't know, risque kind of creator. That's not the case at all. I love the weirdest shit. Trust me. You can look at the stuff I'm involved with and make, and I love weird shit.
Oh yeah.
It's just I think sometimes there's just like a lack of any kind of meaning behind it. That's all I mean.
Fair enough. I was gonna say, Warhol paints a Campbell soup can, and everyone goes crazy about it. I tried to do a digital painting of a Campbell soup can, and Campbell is probably gonna take it and try to make it to an NFT.
Yep, that's where we're at.
But basically, there is a line with what could be considered art. Is that a hill you're willing to die on?
No, that's not a hill I'm willing to die on, because that sounds just so.
Oh, okay.
No.
Find a way to word it in the way to where you'd be like, yes, I'm willing to die on this kind of hill.
Oh my god. I want to die on any kind of hill right now.
I didn't say you had to die tomorrow. I'm just saying, like, if someone is like, trying to oppose you'll stand your ground.
I guess the best way to word it then would be something along the line of like, if have meaning behind what you're trying to make, and whether it it be something that's very private to you or very obvious, whether it be, have something. And like I don't know, it's just like I said, this is a very minuscule thing,
right,
too, because like only a handful of people like try to be hacks, I fully believe, but I just think they're easier to spot. That's all I'm saying.
Well, there we go. But nevertheless, I can't think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Nathan Ragland. Feel free to subscribe or follow whatever streaming platform you prefer. I am now part of the Apocalypse Podcast Network. Go to apocalypsepodcastnetwork.com to find your new favorite podcast, maybe even my own. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Postmod Art Pod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. He is a writer who co-wrote the Hazbin Hotel pilot. He is the co-creator of the upcoming internet sensation Far-Fetched, as well as a director, musician, filmmaker, radio guy, former butcher, and a rat dad. Welcome to the podcast, Dave Capdevielle. How you doing today, Dave?
Hello. I'm all right, man. I am, recovering from dying on that hill earlier. Slowly putting the pieces back together. How about you?
You know what? I'm doing wonderful. Now I'm actually getting the chance to sit down and chat with you. This is, I'm honored to even just be mentioned in the same sentence as you right now. But before we really divulge more into picking up the pieces or whatnot, I want to know a little bit more about the origin stories of Dave. What got you actually, before I divulge into that, I need to ask a question from our wonderful producer, Maria, aka Tipsy J Hearts. How's your rat doing?
She is good. My rat ranch, she is doing fine. I literally gave her a barbecue Lay's chip before this podcast started. No, she's good. She's very, very sweet. She just likes to hide in places or go on my shoulder. It's been very nice to have a pet. So
that's nice. I guess the follow-up question should be, how's it like for you being a rat father?
It's kind of what the amalgamation of my life has led up to at this point. I don't know. It's very funny because like I've always like the word rat has always been one of my just favorite words to say. and I think it's very, very fitting that I've grown, and mainly because she's just such a sweet girl that I've grown very, very attached. So.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. I'm glad the adoption process has been wonderful on your end, and you've been adjusting well to this new responsibility. You
know what's funny is the adoption process was literally we had gone to a place called the Western Ranch, which is just a little like kind of like pet supply feeding store, and this was fucked up, but like unfortunately, they have what are known as feeder rats, which is, you know, what you feed to snakes. And you're supposed to buy them to do that. But instead, we said that, and instead we took her home, and I made her my daughter.
Aww.
I saved her from being eaten by a snake, essentially.
Wow, Dave the lifesaver. That's something else I need to add to the resume with the intro that I did.
Oh God! now I'm gonna have to let like an old folks home explode or something to make up for that. So they kind of balance myself out.
A bit extreme, but you know what? I get the circumstances. I would start
just like happen to cough at the same time when it happens, so you know, don't see it.
Happened to accidentally sit down on the detonator that just so happened to be laying around.
Right. Yeah.
But anyways, now that we've kind of now we know the origin stories of you being a rat dad, let's go back even a little bit further. I want to know the origin stories of Dave. What got you interested in art and radio and writing in the first place?
I don't know. I was always, honestly, it all started with, it's kind of what you said earlier, like you were very much into like filmmaking and stuff, because I was the same way ever since I was a kid. I was obsessed with just telling stories and stuff. I would, you know, steal my parents' VHS camcorder with my friends, and we would shoot goofy horror movies in the woods and, you know, dumb things where we would like throw rocks at each other and stuff and make little movies out of them. And then I just started writing scripts for stories, and I got super into, you know, I was in like band and stuff growing up, so I was always super into music. And I don't know, it's just like I was always just been a very creatively minded person, because I never, you know, I mean, I tried to play sports. I did, wasn't good at them. I remember a middle school basketball game where I got the rebound off of a shot, and I ended up throwing it back in the goal to score for the other team. And that was pretty much the end of my future NBA career. But no, it was mainly just the arts and stuff for me. I actually, like, funny enough, the first thing I ever wanted to do was be a playwright, which, you know, to write for Broadway, because I'm a big musical theater fan. But that's a bitch. And because I've tried multiple times to write, like, I tried to this, it's so bad. It's like, it's just one of those things, because like when I was a dumb kid, Like I tried to write an entire Broadway musical by myself when I was 15.
Oof.
And it sucks, but that's fine because like you're a kid. But like that's kind of I guess where it kind of started. But I was always also super interested. Like I look back, like some of the happiest times of my life were like just when we bought like that cheapo Phantom of the Opera masks in my neighborhood, and we were making like a dumb horror movie, and like you could see like my friend like shooting the ketchup bottle from on screen as the blood. like there's something about that that's just like very, very inspiring and nostalgic for me. And I think that kind of goes into everything. I don't know. I just it's weird for me to talk about myself, but like I've just always been a very, I guess, creative person, I suppose.
No, I was gonna say, especially when it comes to the home movies that you had made with the cheap masks, stuff like that. There's a charm about just seeing, I guess, that spark more or less, like growing up and all that kind of stuff. It's something it's something I wish I personally had. I'm in basically country bumpkin nowhere Georgia, and the most the most media we would have would be my yearbook class, so there was never like a real like TV or movie outlet until I got to college and stuff. But like I totally get where you're coming from, just seeing that sort of younger you just having that spark and just going for whatever, like just making what you thought would be the best thing possible. When did it for you go from like just this love to like a passion and your career?
I would probably say when I went to college, and I did and the following is not something I would advise doing as a path, as I've hammered in luck from earlier, but I went to college for 2 years and I dropped out.
Okay.
But in those 2 years, I would say probably 85% of my time was hanging out and working at my college radio station.
Ooh, okay.
And when I say that, I mean I would skip class and go hang out at the college radio station, which is, like I said, not advised. Go to class, kids. But I know I was absolutely in love with everything about it, from doing kind of like the daily show, the commercial work, the announcement work, having my own show with my friend Zach.
Nice.
That was the first big thing ever, was when we had our own show, which was called Hard Knocks. I remember this. And it was basically the only way I could describe it is that, like, imagine like if the Dr. Demento show played like heavy metal. So it was basically like we were heavy metal, but we did comedy skits and stuff in between playing the music that we did. Right?
Oh yeah, no, I imagine there's a niche market for that.
Yes, and when it was all week. It was every Wednesday night from 7 to 9. It was all I would look forward to, and ahead of time, we would write bits and skits and like improv stuff for it. Mm-hmm. And I focused way more on that than any of my actual college studies. And but that was the first time I ever was really like, oh man, like I would love to like just do something like just to entertain people like this, because like oh my god, there are 4 people listening. Like we would scream like we just saw the Mother Mary when somebody would call in and give a request, like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh my god, somebody's listening. Like yeah, I don't know. That's probably the first time that I really was like, oh man, I'd love to make this like a thing. And then after I left college, because when you don't go to class, you tend not to get the best grades.
Right.
I didn't fail out of college. I just stopped. I just dropped out. But I got a job because in my hometown of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, there was a corporate radio station that used the exact same technology and interface equipment that my college station was using.
Oh, okay.
And so I got a job there as their board op and producer.
Nice.
And that was my first real job. Didn't pay very well. It was only part-time, but the experience was awesome because I got to work for a real radio station. I was the producer for the #1 LSU sports talk radio show of a man who spoke way too fast from New Orleans, who at 6 o'clock in the morning, I would come in and I would grab the coffee and set up the boards, and I'd be like, "Hey, Mr. Condon, how are you?" "Hey, what's going on, man?" And it's just like, dude, it's 6 in the morning. Let's dial it down a little bit. But that was the first time I ever really was like, wow, I'm actually doing this. I'm getting paid to do it. I was like, oh, let me do the traffic reports. Let me edit the weather reports. Let me do. I was getting to do anything, because I wanted to just do this stuff, and that's what kind of got me into being like, oh, maybe it is possible to, do this for some money, even though it was very the mind of a 21-year-old.
I mean, still, it's a good start more than anything else. I know for me, I didn't know I really wanted to be go into a media kind of field until I actually got to the college I went to, and I saw just their green screen room more than anything else with the control panels and all this kind of stuff. I saw that and I'm like,
yeah,
I need to be here. That's how I knew. So for you having that more firsthand, actually producing the stuff that would go out to a much wider audience than just your local college and stuff, I can only imagine just how mind blowing that must have been.
It was something. It was very much that was that mentality to not, screw up or not, do wrong. Because I was like, oh my God, this is my one shot, when in reality, it's I know they were just, they had me on because they needed a part-timer. So,
right. Right. Well,
but it was cool.
Oh yeah, no, I can only imagine. Now, I imagine as you started to develop a little bit more of your own stuff, I imagine you tried to seep in just your own little bit of an influence, especially with some of the stuff that you probably grew up watching and stuff. I want to ask, what are some the inspirations for what you made both then and now? Would it be somewhere along the the heavy metal that you talked about before, the aspects of horror and the drama, the horror dramas that you love to sprinkle in here and there? What are some inspirations for your work?
For me, I've always been very inspired by things that I suppose the best way to put are kind of confusing in a way, because everything I enjoy and like to make is both scary and funny at the same time. And that's how I've always been. Everything from my the stuff I make and help create, and my sense of humor has always been very it's been a bit macabre, but I think in the way because I just find horror and comedy very close together from an emotional standpoint, I suppose. I feel being scared and laughter are very similar kind of quick reactionary kind of emotions, and so they fall together well. And so that's why I grew up loving the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy for cartoons, and I'm a massive horror fan, and I take a lot of inspiration from 70s and 80s horror films, and a lot of stuff, and I love them. Also, because I'm a massive fan of the practical effects of the 80s. That's another hobby of mine that I've loved doing. But just the creativity of that time period is something that I've always just felt a strong affection for. Even when I was a kid, even when those movies scared the shit out of me, there was part of it which is interesting, because and I've said this before in other places, but I was an enormous scaredy cat as a child, which is very funny to me because I almost wonder if I was such a a baby at that period that I kind of got it all out of my system and sort of 180'd. But I was too scared to, like, even at Halloween, go inside and get my Power Rangers costume because I was scared of the animatronic skeleton out front. So my dad had to get it for me. But what's funny is that all these, like, movies and cartoons and things that I knew freaked me out, I also couldn't stop watching them. And I think that's because there was a sort of infatuation with these emotions that they gave me, and these creatures and these, like, stories. And I think so, like, I think it was kind of important that I sort of learned what that sort of relationship between fear and laughter was early on, because I kind of developed my sort of style.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, from just what you're talking about, especially, like, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and those, like, 70s and 80s horrors and such. Like, there was always a good blend of the two genres together, and, like, the especially with, like, Evil Dead, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which producer Maria, absolute favorite film right there.
Good taste. Very good taste.
Oh, she is wonderful. If I had a chance for you to talk to her, I think you two would get along really well. As a matter of fact, after we get done, she gave me one or two things that she wanted to show you. One of them being, you were asking for a foreign horror film, but Twitter being Twitter or whatnot, she has one that she wants to recommend you to watch.
Okay, good. Yeah, the problem with that was nobody's fault. I got rid of that tweet because I said that, like, I wanted, and what I meant was I wanted more, because I like a lot of, like, kind of unknown indie films and stuff. And while people were giving me cool suggestions, funny enough, they were all from Canada, which I love you, Canada, but, like,
that's not what you meant.
Yeah, I meant more, like, because I'm way more into, like Italian and Korean kind of, like, obscure horror movies. And I was talking more, like, obscure, like, Dario Argento stuff, not, like, Ginger Snaps.
There you go.
You know what I mean? While I love, like, Ginger Snaps, it's like I was, like, looking for something much more obscure.
There you go. Well, luckily for me, my producer Maria has been more than happy to supply you with one that she thinks you would absolutely enjoy. So,
all right.
I was gonna say, when it comes to these the horror films and all this kind of stuff, what are some of your favorites to love, and what are some of your favorites to just absolutely decimate and roast with just how weird it was?
Well, what's funny is that I'm kind of weird because, like, I'm the kind of person who and maybe I don't know what kind of mentality this is to have, but, like, I try to see the enjoyment in everything I can.
Right.
So even the worst fucking horror, I have a DVD of a movie I got for $1 at Monsterpalooza 2019 called The Refrigerator. And it is exactly what you think it is. It is about a killer refrigerator that eats people. And it is not just, it is a literal VHS rip onto a DVD. It is one of the worst things I have ever seen in my life, but it made me laugh my ass off.
Right.
So it's like, can I even then say it's bad? You know what I mean? Because I still found enjoyment in it. Because I've always said that the worst crime something can have is being boring.
Right.
I would rather watch the most ridiculous, stupid piece of garbage that makes me laugh than, I don't know, freaking The Fountain with Hugh Jackman. Because that movie made me fall asleep, and that's why I'm targeting it right now. It's like the most boring thing on the planet. But to be more specific, I would say, I mean, everybody knows, or everybody who follows me, pardon me, not everybody, Jesus Christ. Evil Dead 2 is not only my favorite, it's my favorite movie in general of all time. Mainly for, I love the movie itself, but what went into making that movie. It's so inspiring to me. Like, that's the thing, and I'll say this just for everybody. If you want to watch something that'll just, like, if you're just in a creative slump, go watch the, like, 2-hour making of documentary for Evil Dead 2, because it is just a small group of people making this masterpiece, and and it's just so much fun and inventive and like low budget. And anytime I'm in some kind of like creative slump or anything, I will watch it, and it usually takes me right out. Yeah, I mean, like I have so many. I keep not answering your questions. Sorry.
No, I've said it before. You're perfectly fine. Keep going. I love talking. Let's go.
Because I have a laundry list of movies I recommend to people that I love. Like, I will say this, and maybe this will reiterate, because something I forgot to mention was before I did like stuff with Hazbin and Farfetched and all my other stuff, my very first break into the internet creation.
Wait, can I answer this one? Because I think I know it.
Oh, I'll be surprised.
Is it Starter Squad?
No, but
Okay.
I did do Starter Squad stuff with my friend Ship.
Okay.
Who is a fantastic creator. No, this is not a lot of people know this. My first thing was I did a podcast about horror movies with internet creators called Recapitate.
Oh right, yeah.
And
yeah.
that was the first real venture I ever took, which is how I met a lot of my friends and people, like, because it was just a show where we would joke about and talk about horror movies. And through that, I was able to talk about so many movies I loved, and discover a lot that I didn't know about. But like, yeah, through doing that, I was able to like kind of really expand on and recommend things to people, because, like, I don't know, like I'm really big on like the 70s and the 80s especially, like I said, the Evil Dead films, the like American Werewolf in London, your Tremors, your Reanimator, Hellraiser, you know, Halloween 3, The Thing. Like, there's like I could do this all day. Like, I'm one of those people too that like I probably know, and I'm not trying to say I'm proud of this because I'm not. I probably know that like weird, like oh, have you ever heard of this weird movie? Yes, I probably have. Like, and I do get things occasionally, and it's wonderful when people like recommend me something I've never heard of. But most of the time, when people are like, Dave, you should check this out, I'm like, I've heard of it, I just haven't had time to see it. Which is fun, I guess. But yeah.
I got one that'll stump you, but that's mainly because there wasn't a wide release of it. It was something that was done locally around where I went to college at, like a few years ago.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a film called Spook Bridge?
Spook Bridge.
Yes.
And this was a local film.
This was a local film. Well, there was a filmmaker. I forget what. I'm not gonna say the guy's name because I have a little bit of respect for the guy, but not much. But so he does his own like personal like projects and such, and made a full length horror film called Spook Bridge. Because around where I'm from, where I went to college at, it's called Valdosta, Georgia, and around there's a bridge that people commonly call a spook bridge because of something with like witchcraft or something like that. I'm not exactly sure the story. I could tell you the story when it comes to the film itself. They say that there was a woman who owned certain land where Spook Bridge was, and then they unlawfully like kicked her out and burned her to the stake or something like that, and thus
God,
when the bridge, in the context of the movie, I can't confirm or deny if that's the actual story. Don't quote me on that, but
right.
But basically, you know, there was they built this bridge, and there was like more or less a curse based on that bridge because it was built on her land and she like cursed the land or something like that. I'm letting you know right now, if I can find I have a DVD of it somewhere, or I'm sure it's on like some streaming service. The acting is bad. I will be blunt. There's like one or two
beautiful.
There's one or two good performances. There's like the sheriff. I actually had a chance to work with him on a different short film, and he was probably the best actor of the entire thing. But there's that. The guy who made the film was very egotistical and had himself as top billing, even though he appeared at the beginning and the end of the film. That he only appeared twice, and it was as himself for his little internet talk show that he does.
Oh God, no!
And like
That's like the crypt keeper, like top billing himself.
exactly. And then on top of all of that, like the story is not good. Like it gets boring at times, sadly. The practical effects are they range from just bad to absolutely hilarious. And the ending just absolutely baffles you once you sit through the entire thing. Because, like, you watch it and you're like, huh? No! What? Why?
Listen, man, I'm going to be real with you. You told me the title Spook Bridge, and you already sold me. Like, that sounds right up my alley.
I have at least one horror story that was from the filming of it that I had a friend who worked on there told me about. I won't divulge it because it's a little nasty when it comes to that horror story. But by God, it is one of those, like, knowing the guy and some of the people that worked on it and such, I'm just like, good Lord, man. It was an experience. But I'll tell you right now, the best way to watch it is with friends, because when you guys are sitting around watching this thing, you guys can just roast the living crap out of it with each other and just have a blast just laughing about it. I gotta find it and send it to you because it's something that I just want you to, like, experience and just be like, good Lord, man.
I don't want to divulge too much into the drama that happened with the Spook Bridge film, but
right.
Is it fair to say it was kind of like a Tommy Wiseau with The Room situation?
For the most part, except the main guy, like I said, he had top billing and he was only at the beginning at the end of it, but he didn't, like, insert himself throughout the entire film. So there was at least that. There was at least
all
that.
right. So there was a hint of self-awareness.
There was a hint of self-awareness.
Okay.
But still, it's one of those, like, I just need to I need to find, like, a stream link.
Dude,
to
if
it.
you can find it, absolutely.
Okay.
Like,
Anyways, we have divulged so far off the track.
Yes, well, welcome back to the Spook Bridge podcast.
Welcome back to the Spook Bridge. Welcome back to the Spook Bridge podcast. Because that was one of there's like a judge at the beginning of the film, and that's exactly the accent that he has.
Oh
and
my God.
That's how slow he talks with it. It's like, you mean to tell me that this land supposedly belongs to you? Like, Jesus Christ, man, get to the fucking point.
Because you're from Georgia.
Yes.
And I'm from Louisiana. Like, does it ever bother you when people just do the worst fucking Southern accent and stuff? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like so obviously phony.
Oh no, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about right there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they expect me to talk like, oh yeah, Boudreaux Thibodeau, let's go over there. We go like some New Orleans back ass swamp drinker, like
you're an extra from freaking Swamp People.
Yeah, like freaking duh. Oh my God. Okay.
Oof.
This is a funny story, and I'll tell it very quickly.
I'm all for it.
So, are you familiar with the television show Duck Dynasty?
Of course, I'm familiar with that show.
So, I went to college at Louisiana Tech, which is in Ruston, Louisiana, which is about 30 minutes outside of Monroe, which is where the Duck Dynasty company is right when they shoot that show. And I remember, because I was in college marching band, we had to stand one football game at attention for 20 minutes straight. And I'll never forget this because I was holding a big ass tenor saxophone.
Oh no.
Just to stand there before we performed. Just, ladies and gentlemen, the stars of Duck Dynasty are here. And they bring them out, freaking these, camo duck shooting freaks to come out and wave to everybody. And we're all just standing there. Like, I felt bad. Like, the tuba and the drum players are just like, you can see them trembling. Like, oh my God.
Trying to readjust their stuff to make sure they don't drop it.
Just for these damn Duck Dynasty folks to wave. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, this is what qualifies as celebrity culture.
This isn't exactly the same vein, but what was I going to say? There was a reality show that was going to be filmed around where I went to college at. I know because one of the people I went to school with actually got to be like a production assistant on the couple episodes that was made. Have you heard of the show called Grits?
I have heard of Grits.
Okay, aka Girls Raised in the South. Yeah, it was filmed like not too far from where I went to college at, and then it got like canceled after like what 2 or 3 episodes because no one watched it.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So I kind of understand, but at the same time, you had at least like I had a failed one, you had a successful one, so you had to suffer more.
You know what? I don't think there is any success in either of these situations.
You know,
It's just a whole lot of failure.
goodness. Going back, so going back to the podcast a little bit, it's actually funny that you did mention up your podcast, Recapitate, because that was actually one of the questions I was gonna have. So, like creating that podcast as well as the Terrible Titled Talks, that goes back to like your love for radio and podcast stuff. What exactly decided to inspire you to just be like, you know what, I just need to go out and just do this myself?
Well, it's weird because there was always that sort of inkling to just want to do it. And I think it was mainly during the time when I was working, like doing the radio stuff. I was just kind of like, okay, I have these skills now. I want to do my thing. Because let's be honest, I didn't want to just, be around to just talk about, LSU football all the time. But like, yeah, I just was basically just like, I want to do my own thing. So I started off like, I like horror movies a lot. Let me see if I can get some friends to do that. It started off with just a few close friends, and then kind of I took the risk and like branched out to a couple people I was like a fan of, which is in hindsight, it was such a weird premise for a show because I was like chatting with internet creators about horror movies, which is like, it didn't really make sense, but somehow it worked in a way. You know what I mean? Because like, it was fun. It was fun to have like a comedy podcast talking about scary stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's
absolutely.
what was fun about it. Yeah. Sorry, but really that was kind of it. Was just like, and then like Terribly Titled Talks, like which I've done a grand total of 3 episodes of that. Yeah, shattering world records here. But it was basically just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do my Recapitate ended because Recapitate ended literally right before the production of Hazbin Hotel started.
Okay.
Because I was just like, there's no way I can handle all this. So I was just supposed to just be like hiatus, like, oh, we're just going on hiatus, and then I ended it because I'm like, well, I mean, now this is my life, helping make this show.
There you go.
And then I was just like, well, you know what? I had this downtime in between, after Hazbin and before Farfetch stuff. I was like, I would like to start doing some radio stuff again. So I'm like, well, let me make my own show. And I did 3 episodes so far, and now I'm too busy again to do more episodes. It's like the same cycle. So I don't know. I tend to overfill my palate, which is why I probably sleep like a rock every night. It's just because I'm exhausted, but yeah.
No, I mean, I don't blame you. And hey, when it comes to Terrible Titled Talks, you joke around about being, groundbreaking and stuff, but I say it's probably one of the most groundbreaking, consider the fact that it's one of the first podcasts catered towards squids. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's right. It's squids only.
Squids only, which I'm surprised I was able to find it. I figured that stuff would be a little bit more closed circuit, but you do your own thing, man.
One of my favorite things, and I want to delve into more on the show, because there's a very sort of small kind of like weird ARG aspect to that podcast about like the They company and like sort of all the podcasts being on like found cassette tapes and stuff. I want to explore that more, and I do have kind of a thing with it. The only problem is that it's weird to kind of orchestrate when you like, because I have different guests, right?
Right.
And you can't really like expect different guests to know kind of what you're doing with this thing behind the scenes. So I kind of have to play it out on my own front and kind of work off of what I do. So it's another example of me putting in way too much work when I should really just, shouldn't you just talk to people? It's like, no, I gotta have giant squid attacks and shit. No.
I mean, hey, it's the production of it that has that nice little charm to it more than anything else. So that means you have to find a way to import a giant squid from the Pacific Ocean to your house to get the most authentic sound, to get the proper podcast. Go for it, man. Just let that creativity flow.
My favorite thing too is that like I don't want to boost my own thing, but like I loved that transition so much, and I was so giddy when I got it right between the giant squid scream and then just the Andrew WK Cartoon Network song, because I knew I had to end the podcast on that after the conversation with Maxwell.
Oh yeah, talking about basically how, that was the beginning of the end for, Cartoon Network stuff.
Which is sad because like I really like Andrew WK. I know he just did that for a paycheck, but he is never going to be able to like separate it, like with the downfall of like that small window of Cartoon Network's downfall.
Yeah.
He'll always be associated with.
I do want to say, though, in his defense, kind of, the show that he did, Destroy, Build, Destroy, it would have been much more loved if it wasn't, like, signaling the end of cartoons on Cartoon Network.
If that show had been on, like, Discovery Channel or something, people probably would have, like, it probably would have come on after Mythbusters, and people would have loved it.
Exactly.
Like, I genuinely think, because he's a very entertaining guy.
He is.
Like, dude, yeah, seriously, fuck, I should have pitched that. If they had done like Mythbusters, because I was a huge Mythbusters fan.
Oh, who isn't?
If they had done like Mythbusters followed by Destroy, Build, Destroy, people would have ate that shit up.
Exactly.
Like, God damn it.
But no, it had to be Cartoon Network trying to bring in live action to their stuff.
Dude, what would happen if we took all the cartoons off Cartoon Network?
Well, so didn't Maxwell say that at one point they were considering renaming it to Children's Network instead of just Cartoon Network?
Yes, he did. Which is something for sure.
I'm glad they didn't go with that, but still.
I mean, Cartoon Network has definitely recovered, but that was the little dip.
It definitely has, and then some. Although I remember when there like a call earlier this year to where they said they're thinking about delving back into the live action stuff. I could be wrong on that. I heard that somewhere. I could be very wrong, and
Here's the thing. It's like, if they wanted to experiment with like one or maybe even two shows, but keep their normal block of cartoons and animations, you know what? I think I'd be okay. Like, just experimenting, right? But like, the problem was that they went full into like making all these shows and like all at once. The problem was they didn't ease people into it if they're going to try it. Also, if your channel's called Cartoon Network, it's supposed to be about cartoons. It should just be obvious.
It's one of those. I feel like it would have been received a little bit better if they had stuck with, what was it, the Inside Jimmy's Head or whatever, the one about the dude who had like the cartoonist brain, the one that was the blend of live action and cartoon.
Oh my God, he just brought up a weird repressed memory. That show.
Like if they had started with just that and then ease like one or two of the other ones in there, I feel like it would have received a lot better. But it's like, nope. Fuck your cartoons. We're going to go live action. Here's Andrew WK smashing stuff.
The problem is that like that was like it was a really, in hindsight, it was kind of a dope promo for the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
But when you figure out like what it was for, it's like very depressing.
Absolutely.
It's like imagine if like Metallica was like playing the burning down of your childhood mall. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, this is cool, but also this sucks. Like,
I mean, in the same vein, if it was to be broadcast somewhere, I'm pretty sure the music would have been muted because otherwise they would have copyright claimed themselves.
Dude, that Metallica Twitch thing was the funniest thing. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm glad you
knew
exactly what I was
talking
about.
MIDI versions of their own songs and stuff. I just could not believe that.
I mean, to be fair, like Lars himself kind of dug his own grave with that one, because
listen, that was Lars getting his comeuppance for killing Napster.
There you go.
Right?
That's exactly what it was.
Jesus Christ, it sucks because I love Kirk Hammett, but Lars Ulrich can eat a shoe. Like,
oh goodness, this has been a great conversation so far. Anyways, let's try to get back to the road I have.
Yes, sorry.
We've divulged into so many different aspects of like the content creation that you've made, but I think it's time to divulge into the big one that a lot of people should know you for, and that's Starter Squad. No, I'm joking.
Starter Squad does have a big audience, I will say.
It does have a surprisingly good audience. I didn't even realize that until I saw that you were credited for it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But a lot more people will probably know you as, like I said in the intro, the co-writer of the Hazbin Hotel pilot. I just want to know, how did you get involved with the project in the first place?
Basically, I met Vivian, the creator, and we became friends at, I believe it was MagFest 2016.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was 2015. I want to say 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Is what, and we met and we just kind of became friends and hit it off, and just at some point after that, we were just like messaging, and she just said, "Hey, I'm trying to write this like little show about these characters from Hell I have that you want to like kind of help me out writing it." I was like, "Yeah, sounds fun." And then our other friend Ray got on board, and we and it turned into going from like this little kind of idea with these characters to this 32-minute pilot that took 2 years to make, which and then we kind of went all out for, like, I went all in on helping with the production of everything, and basically like I moved to LA for it, so
there you go.
And here's the thing, man, and I've said this before, like, none of us, even though, like, I said this from the beginning with Hazbin. Hazbin is the kind of thing that people I knew from the start were either going to love or hate.
Right.
There was not going to be any middle ground. It's just kind of one of those things. But I mean, I thought what we had was good. I thought it was like entertaining. I was proud of it. None of us could have ever predicted for it to, have the impact it's had, how big it's gotten in the zeitgeist and everything. And it's still kind of, it's still mind-blowing to me to this day that so many people still like dude, like, I see fan art of it on Twitter every time I log in. It's insane. Like, we were talking earlier about like these feelings of like is it weird, like about like with the humility and everything. Yeah, it's fucking weird because like when you see like so many people be love and inspire something you help bring to life, it's fucking weird. Like I don't know, and it's wonderfully humbling, and it's amazing, and I see so many talented people, like I said, every day, like, that are inspired by it, but like, it is weird. And I mean, I'm very, very thankful. Like, I'm extremely thankful to Viv and to the rest of the team, like, for allowing me to be such a part of it. But like, I don't know, it's always going to be part of my life. And it is very weird. Like, it changed my life, like,
good
in more ways than one, but it definitely changed my life, and I'm very, very thankful for it. So,
well, that's good to hear. I mean, especially at this point forward, even though you're invested in the other thing, which we'll talk about in a second. Like, I imagine you're still like right there, like, basically rooting for Viv at this point, and that whole entire Spindlehorse team with everything they're doing at this point forward, because I can only imagine, like, especially now that they know that there's an audience for it and the love and support that's behind it, I can only imagine the pressure they're already starting to feel with making sure they deliver at this point forward.
Well, they've been absolutely knocking it out of the park.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm very, very, because I have a lot of friends who are involved in the making of that show, and I'm very proud of all of them, and I'm very, very happy that it's doing so well, and it's awesome to see that so many people enjoy it. Like, it's like the same thing. It's very weird, like with Hazbin, because it is, and like with the whole A24 thing, because it's like it's kind of unsure like what's going to happen at this point, and I'm very interested just as much as everybody else to see what'll happen because like I'm very excited to see what happens with these characters and kind of the stories and stuff from where it goes.
Yeah, because I imagine, at least for you, with how much you invested in it, trying to help create the pilot and bringing it to life, like, I can only imagine it's almost like it's almost like if you were to take your rat and then give it to like the zoo and see it like perform, and you'd be like, I'm so proud of it, I can't wait to see what's next.
That's it. It's that, like, because I love the characters and
absolutely
the story, and like obviously having it been like 3 years ago, there are some like if I could go back and like rewrite some things on the pilot, yes, I would. Like, all you could do is grow, right? And if you don't, well, then you've got Benjamin Button disease. But like, but overall, it's like I'm still, I'm very proud of it, and I'm like I said, I'm very excited to see where it goes next. Yeah.
Is there a moment during the process of making the pilot and such, or like in the pilot itself, is there a moment that you can like stand proudly, be like, this is my finest moment, this is my signature of this pilot?
Yes. That was actually probably when I wrote the lyrics and came up with the melody demo for the Alistair reprise.
Ooh, that was okay.
And I basically kind of like, I wrote the lyrics, hummed out the tune I kind of wanted, and then I sent it to Perry Grip, and he turned it into the full song, obviously. But basically getting it to come up with that whole like reprise song was probably the most proud I am of that pilot.
I mean, you should be. I mean, imagine for you trying to make that thing, you must have thought in your head, you have a dream, you wish.
Yeah, because Viv and I were very much on the same wavelength. We wanted to go for a very kind of like New Orleans swing jazz inspired reprise of the Charlie song. Mm-hmm. But I was very kind of in tune with that writing wise, since it's kind of what I grew up around. So it was a lot of fun. Also, the fact that because of that, so I got to put the word cesspool into that pilot, which is probably the crowning that is the facetious crowning achievement, is putting the word cesspool into the pilot. And then there are a lot of jokes I still think that are like I people a question I get a lot that I'm sure a lot of the other members of the Hazbin team get is like, what is your favorite joke in the pilot? And it's actually it's one people for me not expect. It's when Charlie and Katie Killjoy are fighting in the news station.
Oh yeah.
And you see Tom Trench run by on fire, just screaming, "Why won't anyone help me?" Just bluntly like that. That is like, because I've seen the pilot like 100 times, obviously, right? That is the one part that still gets a smirk out of me whenever I rewatch it. Like from just like even though I've seen it 100 times, because it's just the combination of like the joke and then Tomar's delivery are just so good.
Oh, so, that's it's a gem of a moment right there.
Tomar's super talented and kind too, so shout out to him.
There we go.
Thanks for buying me a beer that one time when I didn't have any money. that happened, but
goodness. No, I mean it's with all you described again. I can only imagine just how amazing the whole entire experience must have been, and especially seeing the stuff that you helped create being loved and appreciated so far. And I imagine you were hoping for a similar reaction, although it's kind of already happened with your newest project that you're currently working on with Ashley Nichols and others, Far-Fetched. How did this idea come to be?
Well, funny enough, in both instances with Hazbin and Far-Fetched, one of the things they had in common with me being involved is that aspects of them were already kind of come up with by Viv for Hazbin and Ashley for Far-Fetched. Mm-hmm. Like Viv had her like the Hazbin characters designs and stuff for a long time. When I came in, it was to help like create the story and the character personalities and stuff. Same thing kind of half happened for Far-Fetched, mm-hmm. where Ashley had Rue and Kira since she was a kid, like old DeviantArt OCs. And that's her saying that, not me. I'm not giving her a hard time.
Right.
And then Quinn, she's had for a few years. But then when I joined in as a co-creator, we kind of we figured out their actual personalities and then came up with all the other characters together. So it was a kind of thing where, because what had happened is that the original, the little proof of concept short had been in the works for a while. Mm-hmm. And this was back when Hazbin was like kind of at the very like end of production. Like I was in the midst of, at the time, basically helping with supervising production and basically organizing all the like animation Swift files and stuff for the final product. Mm-hmm. Combined, and then Ashley had asked if I wanted to help her write this little short she was doing. Okay. Which at the time was called Hell Puppy. And I was like, yeah, sure, because she was a friend, and it seemed like fun. And so I got on that way, and then we kind of did that thing, and then after Hazbin kind of, it finished up, I moved back home for personal reasons during the pandemic. I kind of reached out to Ashley, and I was like, hey, did we ever want to kind of experiment around with that show again? And then we just full on explosion of going from this very simple idea, which is why it's just called the proof of concept short, because although it is it's very cute, we like it, it's not fully at all representative of what the show is going to be, and people will see that in the next the big short we're working on right now, which is 8 minutes long. Okay. I mean, obviously elements like characters, but it's basically we figured out all this stuff, this whole story, all these characters, kind of the tone we wanted to go for, and we just went all in to the point where we wrote this short. We were working on this, also the pilot, and we kind of know where we want to take most of this story. Mm-hmm. And it just exploded basically. And so for the last I want to say since last June, I believe, we've been working on this stuff, basically coming up with this world. So it's been almost a year. Yeah. And we have, in the process, hired and befriended a wonderful team of extremely talented and awesome people. Some I have known for a while, some I am just coming to know, and it's a pleasure to work with them every day. They put up with my bullshit. And I'm so excited. I got that feeling, it's very much reminiscent of that feeling I had when we were working on Hazbin, where it's I'm just so excited for people to see this, and I hope they like it, but that's all you can do is hope. But I'm very proud of it. I will say that. I will say is that I'm very proud of what we've done with this, because I think it's a very good representation in about 8 minutes of it's a very good representation of the tone, what the characters are like, and kind of the style of the show all in one. I think every character, as you'll get to see, they get their time to shine. You get to learn about them. The tone of the show it's very much a horror comedy, which is not a surprise, considering I'm, involved. But it's very much the way I could describe it is because it's very much a combination of Ashley and I's interests.
There we go.
It's I mean, you can kind of see by, like you said, you were very kind to by the poster. You can see kind of by that it's very for Ashley, because she loves that sort of pastel kind of goth aesthetic, mm-hmm. and I'm all about 70s and 80s horror and comedy. And so we joke, as a joke, we said the show is kind of like Ghostbusters for DeviantArt users. We said that as a joke. Obviously it's extremely simplified, but if that kind of makes sense, where it's yes, these characters are very kind of they're fought late 2000s kind of inspired personalities, mm-hmm. but stuck in the world of something like an 80s horror movie, which right. I think is very fun. God, what is the? It's it's like Panic at the Disco meets Camp Crystal Lake. You know what I mean? It's it's weird. I'm gonna admit it's weird, but I think we've gotten it to a point where it works. So I'm excited because not only, I mean, obviously the show is a comedy. There's jokes, but there's a lot of really fun horror and over the top action stuff that I'm very excited for. So yeah, I'll stop answering at this point.
No, trust me. I've just been amazed because you basically gone through most of the questions I had about it.
Oh God.
No. That is perfectly fine. That's what I wanted. I mean, it's one of those that's good that I didn't have to talk about because I could tell just by what you're talking about alone, like the passion you have for this project. I can only imagine, especially considering the fact that, you know, you said it yourself, you've been working on this thing for at least a good bit, almost a year at this point, like really all in on it. And so the fact that it's developing more into this basically beautiful beastly matchup of, you know, if Ash Williams was the lead singer of My Chemical Romance or something like that, you know?
Yeah, you know what? You're not too far off because I mean, like I said, you can see by the poster because the characters are in a band, Sesamoid. They go around and the whole joke. I mean, and like you said, your friend who helps out with your show, who's dude, I gotta tell you this, and it was so funny.
Go for it.
Because you know the gang go around in the old broken ice cream truck, Papa Swirl, right in the show.
Right.
It took so long. I was so ecstatic. Finally, somebody on Twitter connected. Was like, "Is this supposed to be a Killer Clowns reference?" I was like, "Yes!" like. And it was like one person got it, even though like everybody's seen the design and stuff. And I was so happy, like, because that, yeah, it is supposed to be a little bit of a homage to Killer Clowns from Outer Space,
right?
But we, you know, your friend and my friend Jane is the one who actually designed the mascot head for Papa Swirl.
Really?
I told her.
Sorry, time out. Jane Gumball?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, awesome.
And you can kind of tell because I told her, especially in the eyes, I said, I want you to make it look as like creepy as with the pupils being far apart. And I told her, like, think Flapjack, essentially. And she knocked it out of the park. Because like, oh man, like I can't spoil obviously stuff for the show, but like,
right.
The ice cream truck is just, it's so dumb because like basically the band is the guys are so poor that they have to, instead of because you would expect a show like this, like they have a van, right?
Right.
No, they're so poor they can't afford a van. They have to get an old ice cream truck. And so in this, they have all their equipment scattered around like old swirl machines and stuff in the show. So I think that'll be like a nice little like spin / parody on that like kind of genre trope.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those like just what little we have seen. Cause I've been on board with this since I saw the initial Hell Puppy pencil animatic. Whenever I first saw that, like that was like absolutely wonderful. So like to see it just growing and snowballing to the point to where it is now, and to see that it still has a good bit to go and the potential possibilities with it, like, dude, you guys got something amazing on your hands, and I'm hotly anticipating what's coming next for you guys. I was gonna say, not only do I have the poster, whenever it dropped, I actually got the purple the purple hoodie or whatnot that she put on the store or whatnot.
Oh yeah,
I got that one too. But it's like, you know, like it's absolutely amazing what you guys have already developed so far with it. And like for those that are just like curious and like have no idea what in the world I'm talking about, what we're talking about, what should they expect for for what you guys are developing?
So what I can say as far as what we'll expect, like I said, we are currently heavy in production itself. For this, it's such a catch-22 to call it a big short, you know, like because that just means a medium basically. But you know, it would be a medium. It's like this is sort of a pre-pilot essentially we're working on right now. Mm-hmm. It's about 7.5 to 8 minutes of like, you know, you'll meet all the rest of the main characters, mm-hmm. kind of get a sort of taste of what the tone of the show is like. And then we're going to be working on the full big pilot.
Okay.
And then after that, if people like it, we'll try to make more with, you know, however we go about it, whether that be like, you know, working our butts off or crowdfunding or whatever it is. It depends on basically how it does, you know. We're trying to be realistic about things, but
right.
No matter what, you're gonna get for right now, you're gonna get an 8-minute medium, and you're gonna get a pilot. And if people like it and want to see more, then we'll try to make more. So,
There we go. I was gonna say two things real quickly. One, a medium actually would be like a good proper name for it, because that kind of like, if you think about a medium, like, you know, the ghost spooky stuff, I think that would line right up perfectly with it.
There you go. That's a good. You know what? I'm gonna tell Ashley that. That's what we're gonna call it. No, go ahead.
So the second thing I was gonna say is I've had her on the podcast. I don't know if you've heard of her. You probably have. Hannah Daigle. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Yes, she is the creator of Satina.
Right, exactly. For their company, Scumhouse, like going forward, like what you're talking about is kind of what they're doing with any tunes that they produce as well. Kind of have that little teaser, like 5-8 minute, you know, short or medium in this case, and then if it gets enough attention, go forward with the big, you know, pilot first #1 episode. So,
right,
because that's kind of what.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
That's what worked with Satina. It's like they want to keep doing that, and they did that with Naughty Boys, which was absolutely wonderful. I don't know if you saw that one or not, but you know, the voice acting and the style that they had for it was wonderful. But that's kind of what you guys are gonna go for with Far-Fetched. Again, I can be nothing short of excited for what's gonna be next. So,
well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I mean, I'm just, like I said, I'm just in this mood right now where we're just, you know, doing a lot of work, but I'm very excited for people to see it. Like, I'm chopping at the bit because, like, we've dropped, like, we try to drop hints, like, on the Twitter and stuff, like, of like showing some, like, early story, because we don't want to give to. It's very weird because, like, I'm the kind of person who's like, I'm very private about the actual production of things, but right. I also want to drop like hints to get people excited, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've kind of done. We dropped a couple storyboards that like are, which is funny, is that like the storyboards we've dropped have mostly just been kind of like sort of goofy or reaction shots. And then I'm hoping when people see the actual show, they're going to be like, oh, that's not what I expected at all. That's what I'm hoping. But we'll see.
I mean, if, especially with the amount of love and like pride, if that is showcased from what you're expelling, if that is showcased at any point within that short, I could see it do nothing but like successful. Cause like, dude, seriously, like I've said this a million times before, but like what you guys have already dropped so far, it's gotten me, and I know several others already like anticipating what's going to be next. So I know most of us are going to be chomping at the bit at any little taste that we can get.
All these people to disappoint. Very excited.
There we go. Well, now it comes to the point of the podcast where I like to bust out, you know, the dream scenario. Let's say let's say I'm Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I come to you, I'm like, look, Dave, everything that you've done has just been nothing short of golden. Like, love everything that you've worked on, love what you're going to be working on. Let's say I have access to anyone and everyone, as well as exceedingly too many funds to produce the dream Dave Capdevielle project. I think I already know the answer, but what is your answer? What would be the dream Dave Capdevielle project?
Well, Mr. legally named Mr. Moneybags, mm-hmm. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise. I want to make a feature-length, like horror comedy film. I mean, that shouldn't be a surprise, but like a live-action film. But and trust me, I have plenty of scripts and ideas that I've wanted to do for a long time.
There you go.
But that would probably be it, for sure. And that's something I actually do plan to do, no matter what.
Right.
Which is like, you know, I'm hoping that with things like, you know, Hazbin and Far-Fetched behind me, as I work forward, I'll be able to grow kind of credibility and connections to be able to, like, you know, raise funds to do this kind of thing. Because I just want to make something like that's like really, you know, of that sort of like kind of 80s sort of fun, over the top, you know, kind of Evil Dead 2-esque kind of thing. Yeah, that would probably definitely be the dream.
I'm surprised. I thought it would have been Alf the Musical.
Listen, Alf the Musical. That you know what's funny is that like I joked about the Alf thing for so long that it's gotten to a point where like I've actually kind of like what was ironic. I've kind of I need to explain the Alf thing real quick because it's such a weird conundrum. So it started off with the fact because Alf was a show that I would watch with my dad when I was younger because he was a big fan of it.
Right.
So there's sort of a wholesome origin of that. Mm-hmm. And then it turned into like, because like, what's just something goofy that I could just pick on? Alf, right? So it went from this ironic thing to back into genuine love.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's buried under so much mixed emotion that I don't even know what I think of it anymore. Like I'm just like, you know what? I don't know. Like I anytime there's an Alf thing. Also, this is the funniest fucking thing too. To this day, out of everything, Hazbin, far-fetched, horror movies, the thing I get tagged in the most by people on Twitter is Alf stuff. They're genuinely, this is not a joke. There was a person who, and I believe that they had to have been like 16 or something. They added me on Twitter, and said like because I was doing like a Twitter Q&A kind of thing, right? And some person, they just asked, "How did you come up with the character of Alf?" And I was like, "Oh no, I've gone too far with this bit." Like, I tried to back off for a little while.
Okay.
Like they had to have been like young or something.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't realize on top of all the other accolades, I was talking to the creator of Alf. I'm so sorry. I should have done more research.
Yes, and it is I, Paul Fusco in the flesh.
There you go.
I do want to, though. I will say, like, genuinely, I think the ultimate payoff for the Alf thing. I would very much like to interview the creator of Alf on my podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that would be a proper payoff for the whole bit. That's the thing is that, like, I would genuinely be interested to talk to him. Like,
like just if nothing else, like, especially with, like, on top of it being a payoff, like, I would just love to know, like what in his mind, like, wanted him to, like, make such a concept. Because it seems, like, so, like, out there that it can only be done by a very specific individual. So I have to know what his mindset was when he went forward to do this, so...
Yeah, it makes you wonder. And it's so weird because a lot of people still think that Alf is a Jim Henson creation. He's not, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those, like, people instantly associate puppets with Jim Henson, but no, there are other puppeteers out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell, you were working with one with Maxwell, technically.
Actually, no. What's very cool is that Jaden, the main puppeteer who was part of Dead Meat with us, he actually graduated from the Jim Henson Academy, which is really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he was very cool. He also voices Colin, the cherub in Hell of a Boss.
Wait.
So.
Whoa, what? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
He's a super cool guy. Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that. Holy crap. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I respect that. Major respect. There you go. For the people that are looking for, Hazbin Hell of a Boss facts that you didn't know beforehand, there you go.
If you wanted that the more you know rainbow to appear above your head, this is your moment.
The more you know. There you go. I'll have to find some way to edit that in. Well, now that we've gotten through the dream scenario, let's focus a little back on reality. Where do you hope to see yourself, say, 5-10 years from now?
You know what's actually really funny? That you did this question right after you asked me the dream question. Because I have a tweet that I said, in 5 years, I will have started making a live-action horror movie that I made last year.
Okay.
And so now I've kind of put myself into a position, and because I said, I hope this tweet ages well, as in, I better do it by the time it's been 5 years past this tweet. At least have started. You know what I mean?
All that we know is that in at least 5 years from now, you're either going to be part of well-aged tweets or poorly aged tweets.
Like, as long as I have at least mixed a bucket of fake blood, then I'll be safe. Like, I wasn't a hypocrite.
There you go.
But yes, like, honestly, I would. But I'll just say I would like to be doing that. I would like to I'd like to hopefully kind of be starting to settle down at that point with something comfortable as a career. With this, like, have my own place, ideally with a partner,
right?
And just, like, kind of whether it's whatever I'm working on at the time, having that pay my house note or whatever, it's funny because, like, I'm out in California. I really don't think I would ever want to settle in LA, even if my job was here, because I don't know. I'm just not a. There's a lot of things about LA I just don't like from a living standpoint.
Right.
But I mean, I might if work makes me stay here, then yes, obviously. But I would like to ideally be somewhere a lot cooler, and I mean that temperature-wise, not like epic skater-wise. I would love to live where somewhere, because my favorite, dude, the one time of year I'm happy is from September to November. So I would like somewhere where fall is actually a season.
Oh no, trust me, I know exactly. You're from Louisiana, I'm from Georgia. I know exactly what you mean with that September to November just time frame or whatnot. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so I'd like to settle somewhere a lot more kind of cool, kind of like I suppose it's rural, not like Louisiana rural, but like I guess it's like would it be like northeast around like the Jersey area?
Okay.
And stuff, like not like not like the boardwalk, like crazy junky Jersey area, but like the Pinewood area.
Yeah.
Is what I'm infatuated with that part of the United States. So
I was gonna say somewhere like Jersey, Pennsylvania, somewhere in that like middle, but not all the way up northeast.
Like Newgrounds County. Yeah.
There you go. I was gonna say, it's funny that you mentioned, like, or at least I mentioned Pennsylvania. There's a podcast that's part of my podcast network, Stranger Than Christian. It's not a religious podcast. It's the guy's literally named Christian. But
oh, okay, like Stranger Than Fiction. Is
exactly.
Okay,
that's exactly what it's a play on. But like literally, he brings on strangers to his podcast every single week and just talks with them for at least an hour or so. That's another like double entendre, thing or whatnot. But like, he's in Pennsylvania, he's from Connecticut, but he's in Pennsylvania, like doing the recording and all that stuff like that. So if you need a reference, I could try to get to him, but I can't guarantee anything.
Hey, you know what, if he knows a place that is renting, well, sure, that'd be cool. I appreciate it.
I mean, he was in hospitality. He was working at like a hotel for like the longest time, so it's one of those, he would know the area fairly well. So
yeah, but like, we say these things and like, I don't know. It could be 5 years from now, and I could be like so swamped up in work that I'm not even thinking about going somewhere else. It's hard to tell, you know, especially with, as we know, with last year, how unpredictable everything is.
Dude, you're telling me my entire 24th year of my existence was just chaos, more or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
yeah.
Let me tell you, man. My 26th year of, which was the year that like my brain finished cooking and anxiety hit me like a freight train, combined with a global pandemic, was that's a smoothie I don't recommend drinking, I'll say.
You know what, I'm not a big fan of smoothies anyway, so I hope not to
yeah.
Oh goodness. But as we're winding down the interview, I have one last question that I want to ask. Obviously, you're deeply entrenched when it comes to art on so many different aspects, filmmaking, animation, music making, all this different kind of stuff. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
Oh, it's extremely important. In fact, I don't want to end this podcast on a depressing note, but like, I don't know if I could see a reason to go on if there wasn't art in this world. I'll be real, because like, actually this kind of mirrors what we were talking about at the very beginning, about how like art is kind of what separates us, not only as a species, but like it just gives us kind of a reason to live, like to the human experiment, to try something new, outside of the mundane, just like, do you want to, I don't know. Obviously, like, I have no animosity towards anybody who works just the normal 9 to 5, but you have to do it. But like, there's that experimentation of like, just making something that will outlive you. That's what you all want. And you know what? It's kind of funny because it's like, I guess in a way you could compare art to children in a way where it's like, I think the whole human experience in a way is just trying to make something much like a child that will outlive you,
Yeah.
So that's why I make Alf jokes.
You know what? I couldn't have worded it any better. With that, that's all the questions I really have. I've already showered you with enough praise, but I'm gonna do it some more because it's my podcast. I do what I want.
Oh God.
Now, like I said before, you know, seeing just how much influence you have, like even in just a few years, with all the things you've had your creative ventures in, with your fingers, basically with how much you've helped developed and the stuff that you've created as well. It's absolutely awe-inspiring as someone that is trying to be a creator, as such, as a filmmaker, and wanting to do this kind of stuff as well. Like, you're someone that I would love to eventually model myself after, like when it comes to producing stuff. Like, it's incredible to see what you're doing right now, and like consider the fact that, you know, you're not slowing down anytime soon. I can, you know, with the stuff that you're already producing, and now that I actually got a chance to sit down and chat with you, it's been absolutely incredible just to hear your story, see where you come from, see where you go. And I'm be one of thousands, millions probably at this point, that's gonna be right there by your side, rooting for you every single step of the way, because if this is what you're doing now and this is what you've already made and what's coming in the shorthand future, I can only anticipate just the incredible stuff you can develop when the time comes. So thank you for everything that you've done so far, and I appreciate everything that you've done.
Well, look, man, you're very, very kind, and you're very professional, and I really appreciate your time and having me, because this has been a lot of fun, and it means a lot. You're very, very kind.
Trust me, you're not the only one that's thankful. I'm thankful that, you know, I could have just even a little ounce of your time just to sit down and chat. So.
No, I love doing podcasts like this because I love chatting with people, and, you know, letting, you know, I love just talking to other creators anyway. So this is a lot of fun. There
you go. Well, if that's the case, if you ever want a chance to talk on another random podcast, there's an open invitation for you to come back anytime. So, I mean, Jane, yeah. I'll say Jane already took me up on that offer. I actually just recorded that episode, what was it, a couple weeks ago. So yeah.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I'd love to come back. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. I know I shouldn't have to, but go ahead and plug yourself for the people at home.
Oh God. I you know what I usually do is I usually just I just tell people to follow Gary Busey on Twitter.
Is he even on Twitter?
He is on Twitter, and all he does is complain about like SeaWorld and stuff.
Oh Jesus.
I mean, God, you could just find me Dave Capdevielle on everything. That's what I say. Go. Like, really, I don't go by any aliases. It's just me.
There you go.
But also follow Gary Busey on Twitter. You will be entertained. I promise.
I'll have to do that now. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any final words before we sign off?
Yes, I would say that the question I would leave the audience wondering is 0% milk, water, or air? And you could just end it there, I think.
Well, as much as I'd love to end it there, I at least want to say to everyone at home and to the squids, if they want to hear this as well, hasta luego, mi amigos.
I like to trail off with some confusion.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me sparks in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can all open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thanks for listening to the Apocalypse Podcast Network. For more great podcasts, go to apocalypsepodcastnetwork.com. And remember, every time you support one of our sponsors, you're supporting the podcast you just heard.